The assignment seemed innocent enough when it was written on the whiteboard that Tuesday morning. Write about a hero in your life. 500 words minimum. Due by the end of class. Maya Williams copied the prompt into her notebook with the same careful penmanship her father had drilled into her since childhood. Precision matters in everything, he always said. Whether you're writing a letter or planning a mission, the details are what separate success from failure. Wellington Preparatory Academy sat on 12 acres of manicured grounds in the heart of Fairview County, Virginia. The brick buildings dated back to 1847, and the institution prided itself on producing senators, CEOs, and at least 3 Supreme Court justices. The hallways smelled of old money and fresh anxiety, a peculiar combination that Maya had learned to navigate over the past 2 years since her family relocated to the area. Mrs. Patricia Morrison ruled her advanced placement English classroom with the authority of a medieval monarch. She was 63 years old, though she claimed 55 on her faculty profile, and she wore her silver hair in a severe bun that seemed designed to pull her eyebrows into a permanent expression of disapproval. Her classroom walls displayed portraits of Hemingway, Fitzgerald, and Faulkner, all dead white men who stared down at the students with what Maya always imagined was profound disappointment in the younger generation. The classroom was arranged in a hierarchy that everyone understood but no one acknowledged. The front rows belonged to the legacy students, children of alumni whose names adorned buildings and scholarship funds. The middle rows housed the acceptably wealthy, families with summer homes and winter vacations, but no plaques in the trophy hall. The back rows were reserved for the scholarship students, the diversity admissions, the necessary concessions to modernity that the administration tolerated but never celebrated. Maya sat in the last row by the window. She preferred it that way. The view of the oak trees helped her breathe when the air inside became too thick with judgment. Bradley Ashford sat directly in the center of the front row, as he had since freshman year. His father was Congressman Richard Ashford, a man whose face appeared on cable news with such regularity that Maya sometimes wondered if he had been manufactured specifically for television consumption. Bradley had inherited his father's square jaw and confident posture, along with the unshakable belief that the world had been constructed primarily for his convenience. Mrs. Morrison began calling on students to read their essays aloud. She started with Bradley, as she always did, her face softening into something almost grandmotherly as he stood. Bradley's essay was about his father, naturally. He described the congressman's work on an infrastructure bill with the kind of reverent language usually reserved for religious texts. Words like visionary and patriot floated through the air, landing on the ears of students who had learned long ago to applaud on cue. Mrs. Morrison clapped her hands together when he finished. "Magnificent work, Bradley. This is exactly what I mean when I talk about understanding the weight of legacy. You've captured the essence of public service beautifully. A plus." Bradley sat down with the satisfied expression of someone who had never been told no in any meaningful way. He glanced back at Maya, and their eyes met for a moment before she looked away. 3 more students read their essays. Each one received praise calibrated to their family's donation history. The daughter of a pharmaceutical executive earned an A for her tribute to her mother's charity work. The son of a hedge fund manager received an A- for his essay about his grandfather's military service, with Mrs. Morrison noting that the prose could have been more polished. Then it was Maya's turn. "Maya Williams," Mrs. Morrison said, and the warmth drained from her voice like water from a bathtub. The room seemed to cool by several degrees. "Let's hear what you've written." Maya stood. She held her paper with both hands to keep it from trembling. Not from fear, exactly, but from the weight of what she had written. This essay meant something to her in a way that none of her other schoolwork ever had. She began to read. "My hero is my father, Admiral Marcus Williams. He has served in the United States Navy for 34 years. He wears 4 stars on his uniform, but what I admire most about him cannot be measured in rank or ribbons." A murmur rippled through the classroom. Maya heard Bradley snort, a sound of pure derision that he didn't bother to disguise. She continued reading, her voice growing stronger with each sentence. "My father taught me that true strength is not about power over others. It is about service to something greater than yourself. When I was 8 years old, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. For 3 years, I watched my father balance commanding thousands of sailors with sitting by her bedside, reading to her, holding her hand through the chemotherapy that made her so sick she could barely speak. Maya paused. The memory was sharp, even after 6 years. She could still smell the antiseptic of the hospital room, still feel the scratch of the thin blanket her mother had wrapped around her shoulders during those long nights. He never complained. He never asked why this was happening to our family. He just did what needed to be done, with grace and dignity, even when she died and left us alone. My father is my hero because he showed me that honor is not about winning. It is about enduring. It is about getting up every morning and choosing to be good, even when the world gives you every reason to be bitter. Maya finished reading. For a moment, the classroom was silent. She thought she saw something flicker across the faces of some of her classmates, something like recognition or respect. Then Mrs. Morrison laughed. It was not a kind laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had found something genuinely amusing in the most contemptuous way possible. She stood from her desk and walked toward Maya with the slow, deliberate pace of a predator who knew its prey had nowhere to run. "Maya," Mrs. Morrison said, and she pronounced the name as if it tasted unpleasant. "This is a creative writing assignment, not a fantasy exercise. I asked for essays about real heroes, not imaginary ones." "He is real," Maya said. Her voice was steady, but her heart had begun to pound. "My father is Admiral Marcus Williams. He commands the Atlantic Fleet." Mrs. Morrison's eyebrows rose so high they nearly disappeared into her hairline. She turned to face the class, gesturing at Maya as if she were a specimen in a museum exhibit. "Class, let me explain something about the real world. Admirals in the United States Navy are the pinnacle of military achievement. They live in historic quarters with full household staff. Their children attend academies in Annapolis or private schools in Geneva. They do not," she paused for effect, "live in rental apartments on the south end of town, and they certainly do not send their daughters to school wearing discount store clothing." Maya looked down at her outfit. She was wearing jeans and a plain blue sweater, both clean and neat. Her father had taught her that presentation mattered, but that expensive labels did not equal quality. She had never been ashamed of her clothes until this moment, when Mrs. Morrison's gaze made her feel like she was covered in dirt. "My father believes in living simply," Maya said. "He says that extravagance is a distraction from what matters." Mrs. Morrison stepped closer. She was near enough now that Maya could smell her perfume, something floral and cloying that caught in the back of her throat. "What matters?" Mrs. Morrison repeated, her voice dropping to something intimate and cruel. "What matters is the truth, Maya. And the truth is that you are a scholarship student from a single-parent household. Your file says your mother is deceased and your father is frequently absent. I imagine it must be very difficult growing up without proper guidance. But fabricating a prestigious military career for your father is not the answer. It is pathetic, and frankly, it is an insult to the men who have actually earned those ranks." "I am not fabricating anything," Maya said. Her voice rose despite her efforts to control it. "He is a 4-star admiral. He is currently deployed overseas, which is why he cannot attend school functions, but he is real. I can give you his contact information at the Pentagon." Mrs. Morrison snatched the paper from Maya's hands. The movement was so sudden and violent that Maya gasped and stepped backward, nearly tripping over her chair. "This," Mrs. Morrison announced, holding the essay aloft like evidence of a crime, "is what happens when we lower our standards. This is what happens when we admit students based on demographic quotas rather than merit." She tore the paper in half. The sound was obscene in the quiet classroom, like something being murdered. "Mrs." Morrison did not stop. She placed the halves together and tore them again and again, maintaining eye contact with Maya throughout. Her expression one of pure, undisguised contempt. The pieces of Maya's essay fluttered to the floor like dying butterflies. "You will rewrite this assignment," Mrs. Morrison declared. She brushed her hands together as if she had touched something contaminating. "This time, write about something realistic. Write about your mother's illness, or the challenges of growing up in your neighborhood. Stick to what you know. Do not appropriate the accomplishments of your betters." Maya stood frozen. The injustice of it burned in her chest like acid. She wanted to scream, to overturn desks, to make someone understand that everything she had written was true. But her father's voice echoed in her mind, as it always did in moments of crisis. "Discipline is the foundation of everything. Lose your composure and you lose the battle." She did not cry. She refused to give Mrs. Morrison the satisfaction. The bell rang. Students scrambled to escape the tension, grabbing their bags and rushing for the door without looking at Maya. No one wanted to be associated with someone who had just been publicly humiliated. Association was a form of contagion at Wellington Prep. Mrs. Morrison returned to her desk as if nothing had happened. She began grading papers, dismissing Maya's existence with the casual efficiency of someone swatting away an insect. Maya waited until the room was nearly empty before she knelt to gather the pieces of her essay. Her hands trembled as she collected the scraps, trying to find the section where she had written about honor, wanting to save at least that word. A shadow fell across her. She looked up to find Bradley Ashford standing over her, his leather messenger bag slung over one shoulder, his expression one of amused superiority. For a moment, Maya thought he might say something decent. Perhaps he understood, in some small way, what it felt like to have a father whose presence loomed larger than life. Perhaps he would offer a word of sympathy, an acknowledgement that Mrs. Morrison had gone too far. Bradley looked at the torn paper scattered around Maya's knees. Then he looked at her face. 4 stars, he said, chuckling softly. You should have aimed lower. Maybe a sergeant. That would have been more believable for someone like you. He raised his designer shoe and placed it deliberately on the pile of torn paper. He ground his heel into the word honor, leaving a muddy print across the shattered remains of Maya's tribute to her father. Then he walked away, leaving Maya alone on her knees, surrounded by the destruction of everything she had tried to share. News at Wellington Preparatory Academy moved with the speed of a wildfire in dry season, and cruelty traveled even faster. By the time the lunch bell rang, Maya's essay had been transformed into legend, twisted and embellished into something grotesque. Bradley Ashford did not simply allow rumors to spread. He cultivated them with the precision of a gardener tending poisonous plants. He understood, even at 17, that narrative control was the foundation of power. His father had taught him that. The man who tells the story decides who is the hero and who is the villain. Bradley sat at the central table in the cafeteria, a position reserved for varsity team captains and student government officers. He was surrounded by his usual court, boys in expensive polo shirts and girls with professionally highlighted hair. They leaned in to hear him speak, their attention as focused as disciples listening to a sermon. It is honestly sad, Bradley said, his voice carrying just far enough to reach the neighboring tables. My father's office looked into it. There is no Admiral Williams in the Navy records. Her mother was apparently some kind of housekeeper who got fired for stealing from her employers. The girl is delusional. She thinks if she lies convincingly enough, she will somehow become one of us. The lie was elegant in its construction. It contained just enough specificity to sound researched while remaining vague enough to be difficult to disprove. It played perfectly into the existing prejudices of the student body, transforming Maya from a victim of injustice into a pathological liar who deserved whatever punishment came her way. Across the cafeteria, Maya sat alone at a small table near the emergency exit. She had chosen the spot deliberately, positioning herself with her back to the wall so she could see anyone approaching. Her father had taught her that. Never leave your back exposed, always know your exits. She opened a container of leftover rice and vegetables, food she had prepared herself the night before. Her father had been deployed for 7 weeks, and she had learned to take care of herself during his absences. She opened a worn paperback copy of a book on military strategy, trying to lose herself in something other than the hostile environment surrounding her. She felt the weight of the stairs. She heard the whispers hissing across the cafeteria like steam from a pressure cooker. Every burst of laughter felt directed at her, even when she knew logically that not everyone was paying attention. Bradley watched her from across the room. He watched her eat her humble lunch with perfect posture, her eyes fixed on her book, her expression calm and composed despite everything that had happened. He found himself increasingly irritated by her stillness. That morning, his father had called him, not to ask about school or inquire about his well-being, but to berate him about a scratch on the Mercedes. You are careless, his father had shouted through the phone. You are soft. Do you have any idea what I sacrificed to maintain this family's position? Bradley had listened in silence, as he always did, feeling himself shrink with each word. His father had the ability to make him feel like an insect, something small and insignificant that existed only at the pleasure of greater beings. Now, sitting in the cafeteria, surrounded by people who admired him, Bradley looked at Maya Williams and felt something dark and hot rise in his chest. She had been humiliated in front of the entire class. She had been called a liar and had her work destroyed. Yet there she sat, eating her leftovers with the posture of a queen, reading her book as if none of it had touched her. How dare she refuse to break? Bradley stood. The cafeteria's ambient noise dimmed noticeably, as it always did when he moved with purpose. He grabbed a carton of chocolate milk from a freshman's tray as he passed, not bothering to acknowledge the younger boy's startled protest. He walked toward Maya's table with the unhurried confidence of someone who had never been told no. His teammates followed at a distance, forming an audience for whatever was about to happen. Maya did not look up until his shadow fell across her book. She closed it slowly, marking her page with deliberate care. She did not scramble to pack her things or look around for escape routes. She simply raised her eyes to meet his, her expression unreadable. "Can I help you?" she asked. Her voice was steady, completely devoid of the fear Bradley craved. "Just checking on the charity case," Bradley said. He smiled, and it was the smile of a predator. All teeth, no warmth. "Heard about your father, the Admiral. That's a heavy title to carry for someone who does not exist." "My father's real," Maya replied calmly. "More real than your manners, apparently." A student at the neighboring table inhaled sharply. No one spoke to Bradley Ashford like that. It simply was not done. The social order of Wellington Prep depended on certain unspoken rules, and Maya had just violated the most fundamental one. Bradley's smile twitched. A vein pulsed at his temple. "You have a big mouth for someone who does not belong here," he said, his voice lowering to something more dangerous. "Mrs. Morrison was right about you. You pollute this place with your lies." He lifted the chocolate milk carton. "My father says liars need to be put in their place," Bradley said softly. Then he poured it. The cold brown liquid cascaded over Maya's head, soaking her hair, running down her face, dripping onto her sweater and into her open container of food. She sat frozen, her hands clenched into fists beneath the table, her nails digging into her palms hard enough to draw blood. "Oops," Bradley said, tossing the empty carton onto her ruined lunch. Slipped. He waited. He wanted tears, he wanted screaming. He wanted her to throw a punch to give him the excuse he needed to escalate things further. He needed to see her break because only then would he feel whole. But Maya did not break. She reached for a napkin. She wiped her eyes with the same calm precision with which she did everything. She stood, chocolate milk dripping from her chin onto the linoleum floor, and picked up her tray. "Is that all, Bradley?" she asked. "Or does your father need to purchase a larger audience for you?" The silence in the cafeteria was absolute. Students stared at their phones, their food, anything to avoid being witnesses. The faculty monitor near the door had seen everything and done nothing, suddenly fascinated by a spot on the ceiling. Bradley's face turned crimson. He had won the physical encounter, but he had lost something far more important. She had taken his assault and dismissed it as nothing more than a minor inconvenience. "Get away from me," he hissed, stepping toward her, using his height to intimidate. "Before I do something worse." Maya walked past him without hurrying. She carried her ruined lunch to the trash can, dumped it, placed the tray on the stack, and walked out through the double doors. She did not run. She walked with a measured stride that her father would have recognized, the walk of someone who refuses to let the enemy see them retreat. Bradley kicked her chair. It skidded across the floor and crashed into the wall, making several students jump. "What are you looking at?" he snapped at the room. The cafeteria noise resumed instantly, everyone desperate to pretend they had not witnessed what had just happened. Maya made it to the second-floor bathroom before the composure cracked. She rushed to the sink, splashing cold water on her face, trying to wash away the sticky residue of chocolate milk and the burning sting of humiliation. She looked at her reflection, water dripping from her eyelashes, and saw her mother's eyes staring back at her. "A general's daughter does not cry," she whispered to the mirror. Her voice trembled for the first time all day. "Hold the line, Maya, hold the line." She reached for a paper towel. That was when she saw the words. Someone had written across the mirror in bright red lipstick, the letters jagged and aggressive, slashing across the glass like wounds. "Go home." Maya stared at the message. She understood with sudden and terrible clarity that she was not simply disliked. She was being hunted. The physical education locker room echoed with the chaotic energy of 40 teenage girls changing clothes after gym class. Lockers slammed shut like metallic explosions. Conversations bounced off the tiled walls, overlapping into a cacophony of gossip and complaints about the fitness tests they had just endured. Around Maya, there was a conspicuous empty space, a 3-foot radius of silence that no one crossed, as if she carried a contagious disease that proximity might spread. Maya focused on the simple task of tying her sneakers. She kept her head down, her movements economical and precise. She had learned that making herself small sometimes helped her survive. 3 rows away, a girl named Brittany fumbled with her gym bag. Her hands were trembling. Nestled in her palm was a watch that seemed to radiate its own light, a Patek Philippe with a rose gold case and a face adorned with small diamonds. It had belonged to Bradley's mother, a family heirloom worth more than most people's annual salaries. 10 minutes earlier, Bradley had pressed it into Brittany's hand in the hallway near the gymnasium entrance. "Put it in her bag," he had ordered, his eyes flat and cold. "Make sure no one sees you." "Bradley, that is your mother's watch," Brittany had stammered. "Your grandmother gave it to her. You cannot just." Bradley had stepped closer, and Brittany had felt the air leave her lungs. "It is a tool," he had said. "Tools serve purposes. The purpose of this tool is to destroy her. Now do what I say, or I will destroy you instead. Your father's accounting firm depends on my father's referrals. Do you understand what happens if those referrals stop?" Brittany had understood perfectly. Now she waited, her heart hammering against her ribs, watching for her moment. When Maya turned to shove her gym clothes into the bottom of her locker, Brittany moved. She brushed past Maya's open backpack sitting on the bench and in one smooth motion let the watch slide from her palm into the front pocket. The deed was done. The trap was set. Less than 2 minutes later, the locker room door burst open with enough force to make several girls scream. Mrs. Patricia Morrison stood in the doorway, her expression suggesting she had come not to investigate but to prosecute. "Everyone stay where you are," Morrison announced. Her voice bounced off the tiles like a gunshot. "We have received a report of a theft, a very serious theft." The chatter died instantly. Girls exchanged confused glances, clutching towels and clothing to their bodies. Maya stood slowly, pulling her backpack over one shoulder. The cold knot in her stomach told her this was connected to her. She did not know how, but she knew. Mrs. Morrison did not search the wealthy girls clustered near the vanity mirrors. She did not check the cheerleaders or the student council members. She walked in a straight line through the locker room, cutting through the crowd like a ship through water, heading directly for Maya. "Maya Williams," Morrison said, stopping 2 feet away. "Open your bag." "Why?" "Because Bradley Ashford is missing a family heirloom, his mother's watch, and several students reported seeing you near his locker before class this morning." "That is a lie," Maya said. Her voice was calm, but her mind was racing, calculating angles and possibilities the way her father had taught her. "I have never been near his locker. I avoid him completely." "Guilt often manifests as defensiveness," Morrison replied, extending a perfectly manicured hand. "Give me the bag, or I call the police immediately." Maya hesitated. She knew she was innocent. She had nothing to hide. Refusing would make her look guilty. Complying would maintain her honor. She handed over the bag. Mrs. Morrison took it with an expression of barely concealed triumph. She did not rummage through the contents. She did not search methodically. She went directly to the front pocket, as if she had been given a map, and withdrew the Patek Philippe. The watch caught the fluorescent light and sparkled. It swung from Morrison's fingers like the pendulum of a grandfather clock counting down to midnight. The locker room erupted in gasps. "I did not put that there," Maya said immediately. Her heart had begun to pound, a frantic drumbeat against her ribs. Someone planted it. "Mrs. Morrison, I did not take that watch." Mrs. Morrison looked at the watch, then at Maya. Her expression was one of cold satisfaction. "Of course you didn't," Morrison whispered. Her voice trembled with something that sounded almost like pleasure. "It is never your fault, is it? It is always a misunderstanding, always a conspiracy against you." She stepped closer, invading Maya's personal space. The scent of her perfume was overwhelming, sweet and cloying and somehow threatening. "You people," Morrison hissed, low enough that only Maya could hear the full venom. You come into our institutions, you walk our hallways acting as if you belong, but deep down, you are all the same. You see something beautiful, something valuable, something you could never afford on your own, and you simply have to take it. Maya's hands were shaking. I do not want his watch. I do not want his money. I do not want anything from him. My father taught me that integrity is worth more than gold. Your father? Morrison laughed. It was a harsh, ugly sound. The imaginary admiral. You steal a watch to make yourself feel wealthy, and you invent a father to make yourself feel worthy. You are a fraud, Maya Williams, a thief and a liar and a disgrace to this institution. Morrison turned to address the other girls, holding the watch aloft like a trophy. This is what happens when standards are compromised. This is what happens when we prioritize diversity over merit. She grabbed Maya's arm. Her grip was surprisingly strong, her fingernails digging into Maya's skin hard enough to leave marks. Principal's office. Now. Maya stumbled as she was yanked forward. Every instinct screamed at her to fight back, but she knew that would be the end. Physical retaliation would give them exactly what they wanted. She walked with her head up. Even being marched through the locker room like a criminal, she maintained her posture. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. Dignity is not something they can take from you. It is something you give away. Never give it away. They exited into the main hallway. The bell had just rung, and the corridor was flooding with students. Hundreds of eyes turned to watch Mrs. Morrison dragged Maya past the trophy cases and the portraits of distinguished alumni. As they passed the gymnasium entrance, Maya saw him. Bradley Ashford was leaning against the wall, surrounded by his teammates, looking relaxed and bored. He was not anxiously searching for his missing watch. He was not worried at all. He was watching the show he had orchestrated. As Maya was dragged past, their eyes met. Bradley looked at Mrs. Morrison, then back at Maya. A slow, deliberate smirk spread across his face. He winked. Mrs. Morrison tightened her grip on Maya's arm and gave Bradley an almost imperceptible nod in return. The realization struck Maya with the force of a physical blow. This was not simply a bully acting on impulse. This was a coordinated attack. The wealthy son of a congressman and the bitter, prejudiced teacher were not just on the same side. They were partners. A devil's alliance had been formed, signed in the ink of privilege and sealed with Maya's dignity. The door to Principal Thornton's office loomed ahead. Maya understood that she was walking into a trial where the verdict had already been decided. The watch sat in the center of Principal Thornton's desk, catching the light from the window like a small sun. Thornton was a heavy-set man in his late 50s, with the soft hands and worried expression of someone who had built his career on avoiding conflict with wealthy donors. The evidence is clear, Thornton said, rubbing his temples. He did not look at Maya. He looked at the paperwork he was already completing. Possession of stolen property. Given the value of the item, we are technically obligated to involve law enforcement. Then involve them, Maya said. Her voice was tight with controlled fury. Call the police. They will take fingerprints. They will discover that I never touched that watch. They will investigate how it ended up in my bag. Thornton paused. His pen hovered over the form. That was logical. Too logical. Logic led to truth, and truth would inconvenience people with the power to end his career. We prefer to handle these matters internally, Thornton said smoothly. To protect your reputation, we need to contact your parents. Who should we call? Call my father, Maya said immediately. Admiral Marcus Williams. She recited the contact number. It was a secure military line, routed through the Pentagon, which connected to her father's current command post in the Mediterranean. Thornton dialed. He put the phone on speaker. The room filled with the sound of ringing. 1 ring, 2, 5, 10. Maya stared at the phone, willing her father to answer. Please, Dad, please be available. Please do not be in a briefing or in a communications blackout, please. You have reached a secure military line. The automated voice was cold and impersonal. The party you are attempting to reach is currently unavailable. Please try again later. Thornton ended the call with a look of poorly disguised relief. Unavailable again, he said. You know, Maya, I reviewed our records. We have no employment verification for any Admiral Williams. Just a post office box and a phone number that never seems to connect. He is deployed on a classified mission, Maya said, her voice cracked slightly. He cannot always take calls. His communications are restricted. Or, Mrs. Morrison spoke from the corner of the room where she had been watching with barely concealed satisfaction. He does not answer because he knows what you are. Morrison stood and approached the desk. Her eyes never left Maya's face. This behavior is textbook, Principal Thornton, Morrison said, gesturing at Maya as if presenting evidence at a trial. The theft, the pathological lying about her father's position, the aggression we saw in class today, it all points to the same underlying cause. What cause? Thornton asked, playing along with the script that had clearly been prepared. A fundamental lack of moral structure in the home, Morrison said. Her voice had taken on a clinical tone, as if she were diagnosing a disease, specifically the absence of proper maternal guidance. We see this pattern frequently with students from certain backgrounds. The mother is typically absent, negligent, or simply gave up. Without a mother to provide moral instruction, to teach a young girl her proper place in society, the child becomes feral. She grasps for shiny things to fill the void where love should be. Maya went rigid. The air vanished from her lungs. They did not know. They could not know. They did not know about the sterile white walls of the oncology ward at the Naval Hospital in San Diego. They did not know about the nights Maya had spent holding a plastic basin while her mother's beautiful, strong body was ravaged by chemotherapy. They did not know about the final night 6 years ago when her mother had squeezed Maya's hand with fingers that felt like dry leaves and whispered, "Be brave, my little warrior. Be good." Her mother had not been negligent. Her mother had been a hero who had fought death for 3 years just to see Maya finish 5th grade. You think you stole that watch because you wanted money? Morrison leaned close, whispering near Maya's ear. No, you stole it because your mother never taught you that you are not entitled to beautiful things. She was probably not much of a woman herself if she could not even keep a husband or raise a daughter who knows right from wrong. Something inside Maya shattered. The dam of discipline that her father had helped her build, brick by patient brick over years of training and practice, collapsed under the weight of grief and rage. Maya shot up from her chair. The chair toppled backward and crashed against the wall. Shut up. The scream tore from her throat, raw and primal. Do not speak about her. Do not you dare. She slammed her palms on Thornton's desk, leaning over him, tears streaming down her face. She died of cancer. Do you understand? She did not leave me. She did not abandon me. She was taken. She fought for 3 years. She fought every single day, and she lost, and you do not get to use her memory to hurt me. Thornton recoiled, pressing himself back into his leather chair, terrified by the display of genuine emotion. Violence! Morrison shrieked, jumping backward as if Maya had pulled a weapon. Principal Thornton, do you see? She is attacking us. She is unstable. She is dangerous. I am defending my mother. Maya sobbed, her chest heaving with the force of her grief. You do not get to dirty her name with your filthy mouth. That's enough. Thornton found his voice trembling but authoritative. He grabbed his pen and signed the pink form that had been waiting on his desk since before Maya entered the room. Miss Williams, your outburst confirms everything Mrs. Morrison has reported. Violent conduct, threatening staff, destruction of school property. He pushed the paper toward her. You are hereby suspended, effective immediately, pending a full board review for permanent expulsion. You will surrender your student identification card now. Maya stood there, the adrenaline fading into cold, hollow shock. She looked at the 2 adults in the room, the coward hiding behind his desk, the predator hiding behind her professional credentials. Slowly, Maya reached into her pocket and withdrew her student ID. The photo showed her smiling, taken on the first day of sophomore year, when she still believed Wellington Prep might be a place where she could belong. She dropped it on the desk. It landed next to the watch. You can have the card, Maya whispered. Her voice was dead, drained of everything except exhaustion. But you will not destroy who I am. My father is coming. And when he does, you will wish you had treated me differently. Get out, Thornton said. He refused to meet her eyes. Before I call security. Maya turned and walked out. She did not look back. She walked through the administration office, past the secretary who watched her with poorly disguised pity, and pushed through the heavy front doors of the school. The afternoon sun hit her like a physical force, bright and hot after the artificial lighting inside. She was alone. No school, no phone connection to her father, no one who believed her, no safe harbor anywhere in sight. She began the long walk home, her sneakers scuffing against the hot asphalt of the parking lot. She was so consumed by the ringing in her ears, by the weight of everything that had happened, that she did not notice the black SUV idling at the corner of the lot. As she turned onto the deserted path that ran behind the athletic fields, the SUV's engine revved. It pulled out slowly and began to follow. The hunter had driven the prey out of the sanctuary. Now the real hunt was about to begin. The SUV accelerated and swerved around Maya, cutting off her path. It skidded to a halt in a cloud of dust and gravel. Behind her, 2 more vehicles appeared, blocking any retreat. Maya stopped walking. She assessed the situation with the clinical detachment her father had trained into her. No exit visible. Multiple hostiles. Stand your ground and wait for an opening. The doors of the lead vehicle opened. Bradley Ashford stepped out. He was not smiling anymore. His face was twisted into a mask of ugly, raw entitlement. Flanking him were 2 of his football teammates, large boys who followed orders without questioning them. "Going somewhere, thief?" Bradley asked, walking toward her. He did not rush. He stalked. "I am going home, Bradley." Maya forced her voice to remain steady. "I have been suspended. You won. It is over." "Won?" Bradley laughed, but it was a hollow, humorless sound. He stopped 3 feet away from her. "Getting you kicked out is just paperwork. That is not winning. Winning is when you finally learn your place." He pointed at the ground at his feet. "Kneel," he said. Maya stared at him. "What?" "Kneel." Bradley's voice dropped. "Apologize for talking back to me in the cafeteria. Apologize for lying about the watch. Apologize for daring to pretend you belong at my school. Maybe, just maybe, I will tell the boys to let you leave without checking your pockets for more stolen items." The threat was implicit but clear. Maya looked at the 2 large boys behind Bradley. They were not looking at her with malice exactly. They looked uncomfortable, but they would follow orders. They always did. Maya looked back at Bradley. She saw him finally for what he truly was. Not a prince, not a leader, a scared little boy terrified of being ordinary, desperate to feel powerful because everything in his life had been given to him and nothing had been earned. "You are pathetic," Maya said softly. Bradley blinked. "Excuse me?" "You heard me." Maya stepped toward him, invading his space. "You have everything: money, cars, teachers who worship you, an entire school that is afraid of you. And yet you are so empty inside that you have to destroy a girl with nothing just to feel something. You're not a leader, Bradley. You are a bully, and without your father's money and your father's connections, you are absolutely nothing." The words struck Bradley harder than any fist could have. His face turned blotchy red, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. He had expected begging. He had expected tears and pleas for mercy. He had not expected a mirror held up to his soul. "Shut up," he hissed. "Does it hurt?" Maya pressed, her voice rising with the accumulated rage of the entire terrible day. "Does it hurt to know that no matter how many watches you buy, no matter how many cars your father gives you, you will never have honor? You will never be half the man my father is. You will never." The slap was so fast and so hard that Maya did not see it coming. Bradley's open palm connected with her face with sickening force. Her head snapped to the side. Her feet left the ground. She crumpled onto the gravel, her hands scraping against the sharp stones, breaking her fall. For a moment, the world spun. A high-pitched ringing filled her ears. She tasted copper, blood from her split lip. "Do not ever speak to me like that," Bradley screamed, his voice cracked, rising to a pitch that betrayed his fear and fury. "You dirty little liar, you are nothing." Maya lay on the ground, stunned. She touched her lip with trembling fingers. They came away bright red. She looked up at Bradley. She did not cry. She looked at him with something far more devastating than anger or hatred. She looked at him with pity. That look drove Bradley over the edge. "Stop looking at me," he shouted. "Stop it." He kicked her backpack. It flew several feet, the zipper bursting open on impact. Her books and papers spilled into the dirt. Something slid out from between the pages of her notebook. A photograph. 5 by 7, slightly creased from years of handling. It showed a man in naval dress, whites, standing next to a woman in a yellow sundress. Between them stood a young girl with her hair in braids, smiling at the camera. Bradley walked over to the photograph. He looked down at it. "Look at this," he sneered. "A fake sailor and a dead mother. Trash, just like you." He raised his foot and stomped on the photograph. He ground his heel into the image, pushing it deeper into the dirt. Maya let out a choked sob. That hurt more than the slap. That broke something inside her that she had not known could still be broken. She scrambled to her knees, desperate to save the picture. "Please stop." Her voice cracked. "Please." "Pathetic," Bradley spat. Maya looked around wildly, searching for any help. Her eyes scanned the brick wall of the school building 50 yards away. That was when she saw the window. On the second floor, a figure stood watching. Mrs. Patricia Morrison, holding a coffee mug, looking down at the scene unfolding below. Maya's heart leapt. A teacher, an adult, a witness who could stop this. "Mrs. Morrison!" Maya screamed, waving her bloody hand in the air. "Help! Please! Call someone!" Mrs. Morrison did not move. Through the glass, her expression was impossible to read. She looked at Bradley, then she looked at Maya, kneeling in the dirt, blood running down her chin. For 5 seconds, their eyes locked. Maya begged with every fiber of her being, "Please be a human. Please, just this once. Be a decent person." Mrs. Morrison's expression hardened. She raised her hand, not to wave or signal for help. She reached for the cord of the window blinds. With a sharp tug, the white slats snapped closed. The window went blank. Mrs. Morrison had witnessed an assault on a student. She had seen a minor beaten and bleeding, and she had chosen to close the blinds. She had chosen the congressman's son. She had chosen to let Maya bleed. Bradley saw where Maya was looking and laughed. "Nobody is coming for you," he said. "Nobody cares. You are alone." He signaled to his friends, "Let us go. She is not worth the effort." They climbed back into the SUV. The engine roared to life. Bradley revved it twice, kicking up dust into Maya's face before speeding away. Maya crawled to the photograph. She brushed the dirt off her father's face with shaking fingers. The picture was damaged now, the corner torn, her mother's smile obscured by a muddy footprint. The sky had grown dark with approaching storm clouds. The first drops of rain began to fall, heavy and cold, mixing with the blood on Maya's chin. She curled into a ball on the ground, clutching the photograph to her chest. The darkness of the storm swallowed her whole. She closed her eyes. She wanted to give up. She wanted to stop fighting, stop standing, stop trying to prove herself to people who would never see her as human. But then she felt something. It was not thunder. The ground beneath her cheek began to vibrate. It started as a low hum, barely perceptible, then grew into a rhythmic mechanical tremor that shook the pebbles scattered around her head. The sound of heavy diesel engines, massive ones, a lot of them. From the service road that ran behind the athletic fields, a deep, guttural roar cut through the sound of the rain. It was the unmistakable growl of military transport vehicles. Multiple vehicles, moving fast. Maya lifted her head from the ground. Through the curtain of rain, through the tears blurring her vision, she saw them. 3 armored Humvees painted in tactical matte tan, flanked by 2 black government-issue SUVs with flashing blue lights in their grills. The cavalry had not just been summoned, it had arrived. The entire student body and faculty of Wellington Preparatory Academy had assembled in the main courtyard for the weekly flag ceremony. It was a tradition dating back over a century, a ritual of patriotism and school spirit that the administration treated with almost religious solemnity. The American flag snapped in the wind against a brilliant blue sky. Students stood in neat rows arranged by grade level, wearing their required formal attire. The faculty lined the front steps of the main building, watching their charges with expressions of practiced authority. Principal Thornton stood at the podium, delivering his weekly announcements about upcoming events and athletic achievements. His voice droned through the speakers, the kind of background noise that students had learned to tune out while maintaining the appearance of attention. Bradley Ashford stood in the front row with his teammates. He tossed a football casually from hand to hand, looking bored and relaxed. The events of the previous day had already faded from his mind, filed away as another minor victory in a life filled with them. Mrs. Morrison stood near the faculty entrance, sipping coffee from a ceramic mug. looking satisfied with the restored order of her world. The scholarship girl had been expelled. The natural hierarchy had been reinforced. All was right at Wellington Prep. Then the ground began to shake. The low, guttural growl of heavy diesel engines drowned out Principal Thornton's microphone. Heads turned toward the main gate. The chatter stopped. 3 armored Humvees painted in tactical matte tan crashed through the open gates, spreading across the width of the entrance drive. Flanking them were 2 black government-issue SUVs with tinted windows and flashing blue strobe lights. The convoy screeched to a halt in a precise tactical formation directly in front of the assembly. Principal Thornton dropped his notes. They scattered in the wind, but he made no move to retrieve them. He was staring at the vehicles with an expression of blank incomprehension. The students were frozen, mouths hanging open. This was the kind of thing that happened in movies, not in the parking lot of their elite private school. The doors of the Humvees flew open in unison. 6 military police officers stepped out. They wore berets and tactical vests. Sidearms hung at their hips. They moved with terrifying efficiency, forming a perimeter around the SUVs. The rear door of the lead SUV opened. A soldier in dress uniform stepped out and stood at rigid attention, holding the door. And then Admiral Marcus Williams emerged. He was 6 feet 4 inches of solid presence. He wore navy dress blues, the most formal uniform in the service. Gold stripes ran down his trouser legs. His chest was a wall of ribbons and medals, each one representing campaigns fought and survived, honors earned through decades of service. But it was his shoulders that commanded attention. On each epaulette, 4 silver stars gleamed in the morning light. 4 stars, the rank of a full admiral, the highest rank achievable in the Navy during peacetime, a man who answered only to the President and God. A collective gasp ripped through the crowd. Even students who did not know the intricacies of military rank understood what those stars meant. Power, authority, the kind that could not be bought or faked or inherited. Admiral Williams turned back to the vehicle and extended his hand. The same hand that had signed deployment orders for aircraft carriers, that had commanded tens of thousands of sailors, was now gentle and inviting. Maya Williams stepped out. She was not wearing the hoodie and jeans that Mrs. Morrison had mocked. She wore a simple navy dress, clean and pressed, but on her cheek, stark against her dark skin, was a purple bruise and a white butterfly bandage. She took her father's hand. The courtyard was utterly silent. Not a whisper, not a cough, not a shuffle. The entire assembly held its breath. Bradley's mouth hung open. His face had gone pale. The football slipped from his nerveless fingers and rolled across the grass, but he made no move to retrieve it. He was staring at the man he had called a ghost, the father he had said did not exist. Mrs. Morrison's ceramic coffee mug slipped from her fingers. It shattered on the concrete steps. Hot liquid splashed onto her sensible shoes, but she did not flinch. She could not look away from the imaginary admiral who was now the most real, most terrifying thing she had ever seen. Admiral Williams stood motionless for a long moment, letting the image sink into every mind present. He adjusted his cover slightly, a small, deliberate gesture that somehow conveyed absolute authority. Then he turned to his daughter. He reached out and touched the bandage on her cheek with his thumb. His expression shifted. For a moment, he was not an admiral. He was just a father who had failed to protect his child. "I am sorry, soldier," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I should have been here." "I held the line, Dad," Maya whispered back. "I did not break. I know you did not." Then the sorrow vanished from his face. In its place, cold, hard resolve descended like a steel curtain. The father stepped back. The admiral stepped forward. He turned to face the crowd. His eyes swept over the assembly like radar, seeking targets. When he spoke, his voice carried without amplification. It was a command voice, deep and resonant, trained to be heard over the roar of jet engines and naval artillery. "My name is Admiral Marcus Williams," he announced, "Commander, United States Atlantic Fleet. And this is my daughter, Maya." He paused, letting the introduction settle over the crowd. "Yesterday, my daughter was called a liar at this school. She was humiliated. She was stripped of her dignity." Then his gaze locked onto the varsity section. She was assaulted. The crowd parted without conscious thought. Students shuffled away from Bradley Ashford, leaving him isolated on an island of grass and shame. Admiral Williams began walking toward Bradley. His stride was unhurried but inexorable, like a force of nature approaching. Bradley tried to stand tall. He grabbed the shoulder of the linebacker next to him for support, but his friend stepped away, terrified of being caught in the blast zone. Bradley stood alone, trembling, a boy who had played at being a man now facing someone who had commanded actual men in actual wars. Admiral Williams stopped 12 inches from Bradley's face. He towered over the boy. The medals on his chest caught the sunlight, each one a silent testament to his authority. "You like hitting girls, son?" Williams asked. His voice was soft, dangerously soft. Bradley stammered. His voice had become a squeak. She fell. I saw the bruise." Williams cut him off. "My medical team has documented the injury for the formal criminal complaint." Bradley's eyes darted around desperately, searching for his father, for a lawyer, for any escape. "My father is Congressman Ashford," Bradley said. "You cannot—" Williams leaned in closer. The gold buttons of his uniform gleamed. "I know exactly who your father is," Williams said. The words were cold steel. "You tell the congressman that the ghost has arrived. Tell him that his money ends where my jurisdiction begins." Bradley began to hyperventilate. Tears welled up in his eyes. The arrogance had been stripped away completely, revealing the cowardice that had always been underneath. "You hurt my child," Williams continued, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried across the silent courtyard. "You tried to break her spirit because you were too weak to handle her strength. Now you are going to learn a lesson about consequences. You and your father and every adult in this building who watched and did nothing. You will all pay the price." Williams straightened up. He looked at Bradley with pure, undisguised disgust. Then he turned his back on the boy and walked away. It was the ultimate dismissal. He returned to Maya, took her hand, and looked at the military police officer standing by the gate. "Commander," Williams barked, "lock down this facility immediately. No one enters or leaves. This is now a crime scene." Principal Thornton cleared his throat. The sound was dry and weak. "Admiral Williams," Thornton began, his voice wavering. "While I certainly apologize for any misunderstandings regarding your identity, you cannot simply take control of a private educational institution. We have procedures. We have a board of trustees. This is a civilian matter, and frankly—" Williams did not look up from the file he had pulled from his aide's briefcase. Maya's permanent record. "Does Wellington Preparatory Academy receive federal funding?" Williams asked. Thornton blinked. Yes, various grants, and including Department of Defense education subsidies for military dependents. I believe so, but then you are federal contractors." Williams looked up. His eyes were flint. A hate crime committed against the dependent of a senior military officer, facilitated by the negligence of a federally subsidized institution, places you squarely within my jurisdiction until the appropriate investigative agencies arrive, unless you would prefer that I contact the Department of Education immediately and request an audit of your financial compliance. Thornton went white. The threat was existential. Without federal funding, the school would collapse. His career would be over. "That will not be necessary," Thornton said weakly. "Good, then remain silent." Williams turned his attention to Mrs. Morrison. She sat rigid in her chair, her eyes fixed on a point on the wall, refusing to meet anyone's gaze. "Mrs. Morrison," Williams said. His voice had changed. It was quieter, sharper. "You destroyed my daughter's property yesterday, her essay. You tore it apart and threw the pieces on the floor." "It was inappropriate content," Morrison said. Her voice was brittle but defiant. "She wrote a fantasy. I graded it based on reality." "You did not know I was an admiral," Williams said. "So in your mind, if her father had been a janitor or a mechanic or unemployed, her words would have had no value. Is that your pedagogical philosophy?" Morrison's lips pressed together. "I have academic standards." She claimed a life that did not match her circumstances. "Did you read what she wrote?" Williams asked. "Did you actually read it before you destroyed it?" "I saw enough to know it was fictional." Williams tapped the laptop on the desk, Maya's school-issued device, retrieved by the military police from her locker. "Digital footprints are harder to destroy than paper," Williams said. "I have the backup copy here." He spun the laptop to face her. "Read it." Morrison recoiled. "That's not necessary. Read it." The command cracked like a whip. Morrison's hands shook as she reached for her reading glasses. She put them on and looked at the screen. She hesitated. "My hero is my father," Morrison began reading aloud. Her voice was weak, lacking its usual classroom authority. "He wears 4 stars on his uniform, but what I admire most about him cannot be measured by rank." She paused, swallowed. "People think the stars on his shoulders mean power, but I know they mean burden. I see him sit in the darkness when he comes home late from deployments, thinking about the sailors who did not come back, thinking about the decisions he had to make. He is my hero not because he commands fleets, but because he serves them." Morrison stopped reading. She took off her glasses. She had expected a story about private jets and servants, about wealth and privilege. Instead, she had torn apart a eulogy to sacrifice and loss. She had looked at a grieving girl trying to honor her father and seen only a liar, because of preconceptions she had never bothered to question. "She was not writing about money, Mrs. Morrison," William said softly. "She was writing about loneliness. And you mocked her for it." Morrison looked down at her hands. For a moment, the cruelty faded, and something human flickered across her face. "It was well written," she admitted. Her voice was barely audible. "I may have been hasty in my judgment. Hasty." William stood and walked around the desk. He leaned against the edge, crossing his arms. "Let us talk about yesterday afternoon, behind the athletic fields." Morrison's head snapped up. The shame vanished, replaced instantly by the cold instinct of self-preservation. "I do not know what you are referring to," she said quickly. "I had left for the day. I was in my car." "My daughter says she saw you," William said. "She says she was being beaten. She says she screamed for help and saw you standing in a second-floor window. She says you looked directly at her and closed the blinds." "She is mistaken." Morrison's voice grew stronger. "Trauma affects memory. She was likely disoriented. I was nowhere near that window." She looked at Williams with the practiced confidence of someone who had spent decades lying and getting away with it. "I am a teacher of 32 years, Morrison added. "My reputation is impeccable. I would never ignore a student in distress." Williams studied her face. He let the silence stretch. "You seem very confident," Williams said finally. "I am certain of what I saw and did not see." Williams nodded slowly. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a large manila envelope. "Mrs. Morrison, one of the benefits of my position is the security apparatus that protects my family. Because of my rank and certain classified operations I have been involved with, my daughter is considered a high-value dependent. When her phone went offline yesterday afternoon, when she was suspended and lost access to our communication protocols, my security team initiated an emergency location protocol." Morrison stopped breathing. "We were unable to reach her directly," Williams continued, "so we activated satellite assets that monitor this region for diplomatic security purposes." He pulled out a large, glossy photograph. The resolution was extraordinary. It showed the school campus from a high angle, clear enough to distinguish individual people and vehicles. This image was captured at precisely 3:47 yesterday afternoon. Williams placed the photograph on the desk. He pointed to a figure lying curled on the ground behind the bleachers. Then his finger moved up to the school building, to the second floor, to a specific window. There, clear as day, was a woman in a tweed suit, standing at the window, holding a coffee mug, looking down at the scene below. "That is a distinctive brooch you're wearing today, Mrs. Morrison," Williams said, pointing to a detail in the image. "The same one visible in this photograph." Morrison stared at the image. The resolution was high enough to show her face, her expression, the coffee mug in her hand. "Satellite imagery does not lie, Mrs. Morrison." Williams leaned close to her face. "You watched a boy beat my daughter. You watched her scream for help. And then you closed the blinds." Morrison's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. The blood drained from her face so completely that she looked like a corpse sitting upright in her chair. "Officers," Williams said, turning to the military police at the door. "Read Mrs. Morrison her rights. Then remove her from my presence before I forget that I am an officer of the United States Navy." The heavy double doors of the school board meeting room burst open with enough force to rattle the portraits on the walls. Congressman Richard Ashford strode into the room like a man who had never been denied anything in his life. His suit cost more than most people's monthly salaries. His haircut was so precise it looked computer-generated. His face was red with righteous fury. "What the hell is going on here?" Ashford bellowed, his voice echoing off the paneled walls. "I receive a call that my son is being held like a common criminal. And I find a military occupation of a private institution? Have you completely lost your mind?" He marched directly toward the man in navy dress blues who sat at the head of the long conference table. Admiral Williams did not flinch. He did not even look up immediately. Instead, he slowly unscrewed the cap of a water bottle, poured himself a glass, and took a measured sip. The silence stretched out, agonizing and deliberate. "I asked you a question," Ashford snapped. "Do you know who I am? I sit on the House Armed Services Committee. I vote on your budget. I decide whether your sailors get new ships or rust in dry dock. You work for me." Williams set the glass down with a soft clink. He looked up. His gaze was heavy, like the barrels of a battleship's guns slowly rotating to acquire a target. "This is a civilian institution," Ashford pressed, sensing an opening in the silence. "You have no jurisdiction here. This is not the Middle East. This is Virginia. If you do not release my son and vacate these premises in 5 minutes, I will have your star stripped and your career terminated before the sun sets." It was a devastating threat. For almost any other officer, it would have been career-ending. Williams finally spoke. His voice was terrifyingly calm. "Congressman Ashford," Williams said, "you appear to be operating under the impression that I am here on a recruiting mission." "I am not." "Then get out," Ashford hissed. "I am here because yesterday your son committed a felony assault against a dependent of the United States military. And because this institution's administration," Williams gestured toward the trembling Thornton, "conspired to cover it up and facilitate further harm." "A felony?" Ashford laughed, a harsh, dismissive bark. "Please, it was a schoolyard disagreement. Children push each other. It is high school. Because you cannot handle your daughter's wounded ego, you are turning a shoved shoulder into a federal case." "He struck her face," Williams said. "He drew blood. The medical documentation is already filed. She probably tripped." Ashford waved his hand dismissively. "My son is a gentleman. He is a quarterback with a future at Princeton. He does not hit girls." "He hits girls when he believes no one is watching," Williams corrected, "just as you threaten officers when you believe you hold leverage." Ashford leaned over the table, his knuckles turning white on the polished wood. "Let us cut through the pretense, General. How much?" "It is Admiral." "And what are you suggesting?" "You know exactly what I am suggesting. Is this about money? A settlement for the girl? A scholarship? I can write a check right now. Consider it a consulting fee. Take the money, take your daughter, and return to whatever base you came from." Williams looked at the congressman with an expression of profound pity. "That is your solution for everything, is it not?" Williams asked softly. "Checkbooks and phone calls. You believe you can purchase anything, including dignity, including justice. It is how the world operates, Admiral. Welcome to reality." "No, Congressman, that is how your world operates." Williams stood slowly. He was taller than Ashford, broader, and infinitely more dangerous. "You are a weak man. You have raised a weak son. You protect him from every consequence, so he never learns strength. You purchase his grades, you purchase his friends, and now you are attempting to purchase his innocence." "Watch your tone," Ashford growled. "I raised my daughter to stand alone," Williams continued, his voice hardening into steel. "I taught her that when she is knocked down, she gets back up. I taught her that truth is the only currency that retains its value. Yesterday, your son split her lip, but he could not break her spirit, because she has something he will never have. Integrity. Integrity does not secure admission to the Ivy League," Ashford sneered. "Power does. And that is precisely why you will lose," Williams said, "because you believe this is a negotiation. You think we are two men making a deal in a back room." Williams walked around the table until he was face to face with the congressman, close enough that Ashford could see the cold fury in his eyes. "I am not a politician, Congressman. I am a warrior. When someone attacks my family, I do not negotiate. I neutralize the threat. Are you threatening a United States congressman?" Ashford whispered, his eyes narrowing. "I am promising you justice." Williams' voice was barely above a whisper. "I am going to expose the rot in this institution. the grade manipulation, the bribery, the systematic discrimination. And if your career becomes collateral damage in that mission, then so be it. Ashford stared at him. For the first time, a flicker of genuine uncertainty crossed his face. This man could not be bought. He could not be bullied. He could not be intimidated by threats to his budget or his career. Ashford straightened his tie, forcing himself to appear calm. "You are bluffing," he said. "You have nothing substantive. A satellite photograph of a teacher looking out a window? Circumstantial at best. A bruised lip, hearsay without corroboration. It is the word of a scholarship student against the word of a congressman's son and a respected educator." Ashford allowed himself a small smirk. "This is America, Admiral. The jury will believe the suit, not the hand-me-down dress. You have no witnesses, you have no case. You are isolated." Admiral Williams looked at the congressman, and for the first time that morning, a small, cold smile touched his lips. It was the smile of a chess master who had just watched his opponent walk directly into a carefully laid trap. "Isolated," Williams repeated softly. "Congressman, you really should verify your intelligence before engaging the enemy." Williams did not pursue Congressman Ashford out of the conference room. He knew men like Ashford. They only feared what their money could not buy, and what their money could not buy was currently sitting 2 floors below ground level in the basement of Wellington Prep. Williams took the service elevator down. When the heavy steel doors slid open, the atmosphere changed completely. The air was cooler, damper, heavy with the scent of cleaning chemicals and years of neglect. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered with a dying buzz, casting twitching shadows on the cinder block walls. At the end of a narrow corridor inside a cramped maintenance closet lined with mops, buckets, and industrial cleaning supplies, a man sat on an overturned milk crate. He was polishing a pair of worn work boots with methodical, rhythmic strokes. Williams stepped into the doorway. He brought his heels together in a crisp click, a military courtesy. The man did not look startled. He did not jump or drop his brush. He simply paused, the brush hovering over the leather, and slowly raised his eyes. He was in his 70s, with a face weathered by time and hardship. His eyes were clouded with age, but sharp with intelligence. "Have not seen 4 stars down in this basement before," the man said. His voice was a gravelly rumble. "Last time I saw that much brass, I was lying on a stretcher in Hughes City, looking up at helicopter blades." Williams' expression softened. The mask of command slipped just enough to reveal deep respect. "Marine Corps," he said. "Vietnam." "Reconnaissance," Henry replied, setting the brush down. He stood, favoring his left leg. "Souvenir from a mortar round that never made it into the official reports." He extended his hand. "Henry Washington, head custodian of this establishment for 23 years. Williams shook the offered hand firmly. "I know why you are here, Admiral," Henry continued. "You are looking for ammunition to bring down the vultures upstairs." "My daughter told me about you," Williams said, stepping into the room. It felt like entering a bunker. "She said you always save her an apple from the cafeteria delivery. She said you are the only person in this building who smiles at her." Henry chuckled, a dry sound like sandpaper on wood. "That girl reminds me of a sergeant I served under," Henry said, "tough as they come. Takes a hit and keeps moving forward. The rich kids here, they look right through me like I am a pane of glass. But Maya, every morning she stops. 'Good morning, Mr. Henry. How are you today?' She sees me, so I made damn sure I saw her." Henry limped over to a rusted metal locker in the corner. It was dented and covered in faded stickers from decades past. He pulled a key on a chain from under his uniform shirt. "That woman, Morrison," Henry said, spitting the name like a curse. "She thinks the trash can is a black hole, throws something away and believes it vanishes from the universe. She does not realize that the garbage belongs to me. It is my kingdom." He unlocked the bottom drawer and pulled out a heavy-duty black trash bag. It was knotted tight. He dropped it onto the small wooden table between them with a heavy thud. "Open it." Williams untied the knot. Inside was a chaotic collection of crumpled papers. But as he looked closer, he saw the care that had been taken. The papers had been smoothed out. Some that had been torn into pieces had been meticulously taped back together. They were tests, essays, quizzes. Williams picked up the top sheet. It was Maya's history exam from 3 weeks earlier. The answers were detailed, the analysis sophisticated. It was brilliant work. But at the top, in aggressive red ink, Mrs. Morrison had slashed a grade, C-, fails to demonstrate critical thinking. Beneath it was another paper. This one belonged to Bradley Ashford. The handwriting was barely legible, the arguments half-formed and poorly supported. The grade was A+, exceptional insight. "She manipulates the records," Williams whispered. His grip tightened on the paper until the edges crumpled. "She throws the real grades in the trash so there is no paper trail in the official files." "Not just your daughter," Henry said. He leaned against the wall, crossing his arms. "Any scholarship student who gets too smart, any minority kid who threatens the class rank of the big donors' children. Their hard work ends up in my garbage can. I have been fishing them out for 3 years, every single one." Williams looked at the custodian with profound gratitude. This proves systematic fraud. This proves she has been targeting students based on their backgrounds. "Paper's just paper, Admiral." Henry's voice dropped lower. "Ashford has lawyers who cost more than this entire building. They will claim I forged the documents. They will call it a misunderstanding, a clerical error. You need something louder." Henry reached into the breast pocket of his gray jumpsuit. He pulled out a small rectangular object. An old digital voice recorder, battered and scratched. "I was reconnaissance, Admiral. Old habits die hard." He placed the recorder on the table. The teacher's lounge has an air vent directly above where Morrison and her little group drink their coffee. They sit there during lunch, plotting like generals in a war room. They think the walls cannot hear. Williams picked up the recorder. "They think the maintenance man is deaf and dumb." He pressed play. "I do not care how well she performs on the standardized tests." Mrs. Morrison's voice crackled through the tiny speaker. "The girl is a problem. If her GPA exceeds Bradley's, the congressman is going to withdraw his funding for the new science wing. We cannot have a scholarship student as valedictorian. It looks improper." Williams held his breath. That was admission of motive. But what came next froze the blood in his veins. A second voice spoke on the recording. A man's voice. "You understand the arrangement, Patricia. I do not pay you to grade papers objectively. I pay you to curate outcomes. Break her confidence. Make her believe she's stupid. Make her believe she does not belong here. Destroy her academic record before she threatens my son's position. I compensate you to educate, yes, but I bonus you to remove obstacles." Williams looked up at Henry. The two men locked eyes in the dim light of the basement. They both recognized that voice. It was the voice of the man currently shouting in the conference room upstairs. Congressman Richard Ashford. "The satellite photograph established negligence," Williams whispered, pocketing the recorder. "But this recording establishes conspiracy." He paused, his mind racing through the implications. "This is not just bias, this is racketeering." The presidential suite of the Fairview Marriott had been transformed overnight into a high-tech command center. Blackout curtains covered the windows. Servers hummed in the corner. Heavy-duty military laptops sat on the mahogany dining table next to half-empty coffee cups. Admiral Williams stared at a screen displaying financial records that Lieutenant Commander Chen had compiled. "This is not simply prejudice," Williams murmured. "This is an enterprise." "It is RICO, sir," Captain Reynolds said, leaning back in his chair. "Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. This is not a school administration. It is a criminal enterprise." Reynolds stood and walked to the whiteboard, which was covered in photographs and red string connecting them like a conspiracy map. He uncapped a marker. "We listened to the recording Henry provided." Then Lieutenant Commander Chen ran a deep financial analysis on Mrs. Morrison using channels available to us for security clearance investigations. "We found something simple and ugly." Reynolds drew a circle around Morrison's photograph. "Patricia Morrison earns $62,000 annually as a teacher, yet she drives a current model BMW. She wears designer clothing. She takes European vacations twice a year. Her mortgage is paid off. Her credit card balance is 0. "How?" Williams asked. "Consulting fees." Chen spoke up from behind his monitors. "She receives monthly deposits of $6,000 from a nonprofit organization called the Ashford Educational Foundation. Ostensible purpose: curriculum development." Chen pulled up a spreadsheet on the main screen. It was a maze of shell companies, but all the arrows pointed to one source. "The money originates from Congressman Ashford's campaign finance network and private holdings," Chen explained. He funnels it through the foundation to Morrison, Principal Thornton, and 3 other faculty members at Wellington Prep. Williams crossed his arms. What are they purchasing? They are purchasing the curve, Reynolds said, tapping the board. Admiral, Ivy League admissions are a zero-sum competition. Harvard or Yale might only accept 2 students from any particular high school in a given year. If a student like Maya, who has perfect attendance, exceptional test scores, and a compelling personal narrative applies to the same schools as Bradley Ashford, she becomes a direct threat to his admission. Williams's jaw tightened, so they sabotage the competition. Exactly. Reynolds nodded. Ashford pays Morrison to artificially deflate the GPAs of threatening students. They target scholarship students, immigrants, minorities, anyone who lacks the resources to fight back. Morrison gives them poor grades on subjective assignments like essays. It tanks their class rank just enough to push them out of the top 10%, clearing the path for Bradley and his friends. Williams walked to the window and pulled back the blackout curtain an inch, looking out at the city lights. It is social engineering through grade manipulation, he said. They are selecting who succeeds based on who can pay. It explains Morrison's psychological profile, Reynolds added. She is not simply a racist, sir, she is a mercenary. She hates Maya because Maya represents a loss of income. If Maya succeeds, Morrison fails to deliver on her contract. Her lifestyle, the car, the clothes, the vacations, everything depends on keeping girls like Maya suppressed. Williams turned back to the room. The anger he felt was no longer the hot rage of a father confronting his daughter's attacker. It was the cold, calculated fury of a strategist who had just discovered the enemy's supply lines. This changes the operational parameters, Williams said. We are not just pursuing an assault charge. We are dismantling a federal racketeering operation. We can put Ashford away for decades. We can strip Morrison's pension and send her to federal prison. We have the financial documentation, Chen confirmed, and we have the audio recording of the conspiracy. But, Reynolds hesitated, the word hung heavy in the room. But what, Captain? The assault. Reynolds sighed, removing his glasses. The RICO case removes the father and the teacher for fraud, but it does not directly address Bradley for what he did to Maya behind the athletic fields. Fraud is a white-collar prosecution. It takes years to build. Bradley is a minor. Unless we have definitive proof of the physical assault, his lawyers will negotiate it down to a misdemeanor. He will receive community service. He will never see the inside of a juvenile detention facility. Williams's expression darkened. My daughter was beaten. I want the person who beat her to answer for it. Not in 5 years. Now. We need the video, Reynolds said. Morrison claims she did not witness anything. The satellite image proves she was present, but it does not show the actual assault clearly enough for a criminal conviction beyond reasonable doubt. We need the school security camera footage. The footage the administration claims was corrupted. Yes, sir. Principal Thornton said the server malfunctioned during the storm. He says the file is unrecoverable. Thornton is a liar, Williams said flatly. He is on the payroll. He did not lose that footage. He hid it. Williams walked to the table and picked up his secure phone. He dialed a number. Connect me with the Naval Criminal Investigative Service Cyber Division, Williams ordered. I need a forensic team at Wellington Prep within 90 minutes. If Thornton deleted that file, we are going to find its ghost. And if he hid it, we are going to disassemble that school's network until we find the storage device. We have the financial trail to prosecute the conspiracy, Williams said, looking at the photographs on the board. But to catch the sun, we need to find the eyes that witnessed the crime. Captain, get the warrant. We are hunting for a hard drive. In the Ashford estate across town, the slap echoed through the study with sickening familiarity. Bradley stumbled backward, clutching his jaw. He tasted blood. He looked at his father with wide, watering eyes. He had expected a lecture about propriety. He had expected his father to ask how he could have been so careless. But Congressman Ashford did not ask about Maya. He did not inquire about the girl who had been hurt. You sloppy, incompetent fool, Ashford hissed, pouring himself a scotch with a trembling hand. Do you have any idea what it costs to contain a story like this? Do you understand who Marcus Williams is? He is not some local nobody I can silence with a donation check. He is a shark, Bradley. And you just jumped into his water bleeding. I was just trying to... Bradley stammered. Trying to what? Ashford hurled the crystal glass against the fireplace. It shattered. Amber liquid hissed on the embers. Trying to be a man? A man does not leave witnesses. A man does not get captured on satellite imagery. I paid Morrison $50,000 to clear your path, and you destroy it because you could not control your temper in broad daylight." Bradley froze. The words penetrated slowly. You knew," Bradley whispered. "You told her to fail, Maya. You arranged all of this." Ashford crossed the room in 3 strides and grabbed Bradley by the collar of his expensive shirt. "I did it for you," Ashford snarled, his breath hot with alcohol. "Because you are mediocre, Bradley. You are average. Without my intervention, you are nothing. Do you think you are attending Princeton on your own merit? Do you think you are team captain because of your athletic ability? I purchased your life. I purchased your future. And you are squandering my investment." He shoved Bradley backward. Bradley hit the heavy oak bookshelf and slid to the floor. "You are going to remain silent," Ashford ordered, towering over him. "My attorneys are handling Williams. If anyone asks, you were provoked. She attacked you first. You defended yourself. Do you understand? You're the victim in this narrative." Ashford turned and walked out of the study, slamming the heavy door. The lock clicked from outside. Bradley sat alone in the silence. He looked around the room, the trophies on the shelves, the signed footballs, the photographs of him shaking hands with governors and senators, all fake. Every smile, every award, every achievement purchased by his father. He was not a prince. He was a product, a defective product that his father was growing tired of maintaining. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out with trembling hands. It was a forwarded message from his family's attorney, who had inadvertently included the original attachment from Admiral Williams' legal team. At the bottom of the formal communication was a personal note dictated by Maya Williams. Bradley read it 3 times. "Bradley, my father wants to destroy you. The entire system wants to see you punished. But I know what it is like to be afraid of a parent. I saw your face when the Admiral confronted you. You are not a monster yet, but you are becoming one. The truth is the only thing your father cannot buy. It will destroy him. But it might save you. Do not be his soldier anymore." Bradley read the message again. He touched his swelling cheek. He remembered Maya's face when he had hit her. She had not begged. She had not broken. She had looked at him with pity. She, the girl with nothing, possessed the one thing he lacked: freedom. She was free because she had nothing to hide. Bradley looked at the door his father had slammed. He felt a surge of nausea followed by sudden, violent clarity. He did not want to be Richard Ashford's son anymore. He did not want to be the investment. He stood. He grabbed his car keys from the desk. He opened the window. The cool night air hit his face like a slap of conscience. He climbed out onto the trellis, a route he had used countless times to sneak out to parties. Tonight, he was sneaking out to end the party forever. He hit the grass running. He sprinted toward the garage where his car was parked. His hands shook as he fumbled with the ignition. The engine roared to life. Bradley reversed out of the garage, tires squealing. He did not look back at the mansion. He punched an address into the GPS, Fairview County Police Department. "I am sorry, Maya," he whispered to the empty car, tears streaming down his face. "I am going to fix this." He floored the accelerator. The speedometer climbed as he raced down the winding private drive toward the main road. He saw the exit gates ahead. He was going to make it. He was going to confess everything. But as he reached the intersection at the end of the driveway, high-beam lights blinded him. 2 massive black SUVs surged out of the darkness, blocking the road completely. Bradley slammed on the brakes. His car skidded to a halt inches from the lead vehicle's bumper. Before he could reverse, the SUV doors opened. 4 men in dark suits stepped out. They were not police. They were his father's private security team. The lead man walked to Bradley's window and tapped on the glass. "Your father says you are not feeling well, Bradley." The man's voice was flat, emotionless. "He says you need to come home and rest. The attack came not with weapons, but with pixels." On a laptop set up in the command center, the local news station was broadcasting a breaking segment. The anchor spoke in grave tones. "Disturbing allegations of military overreach at Wellington Preparatory Academy today. Sources close to Congressman Ashford have released security footage that contradicts claims of an unprovoked assault on the Admiral's daughter. Viewers are cautioned that the following images are disturbing." Admiral Williams watched in silence as the video played. The footage was grainy, clearly degraded or manipulated. It showed Bradley standing behind the athletic fields with his hands raised in a placating gesture. Then the video cut abruptly to show Maya lunging forward, shoving Bradley's chest. The video froze on that image. The anchor returned. As you can see, the general's daughter appears to be the aggressor in this confrontation. Congressman Ashford has released a statement calling for Admiral Williams's immediate removal from command and a full investigation into potential misconduct. "It is a fabrication," Captain Reynolds spat, pacing the narrow space between equipment. They edited out the first 2 minutes. They removed the slap entirely. They only showed her pushing him away after he attacked her. "It is a crude manipulation," Chen said, his fingers flying across his keyboard. The timestamp jumps. They excised 47 seconds of crucial context, but the public will not notice that. They will only see a black girl pushing a white boy. Williams did not raise his voice. He did not throw anything. He simply stared at the screen where his daughter was being transformed into a villain. "Ashford is attempting to win the court of public opinion because he knows he is losing the legal battle," Williams said calmly. "He wants me to react emotionally. He wants me to appear angry and unhinged on television. I will not accommodate him." He turned to Chen. "Lieutenant Commander, tell me you recovered the original footage." Chen stopped typing. He spun his chair around. "Sir, the school's primary server logs confirm that the file labeled Security Dr. Cam Athletic Field.mp4 was permanently deleted at 4:15 yesterday afternoon. The drive was then overwritten with random data, standard digital destruction protocol." Reynolds groaned. "Without the original to compare, it becomes our word against their manipulated version." "A jury might have reasonable doubt. However," Chen raised a finger, "I discovered an anomaly." "Explain." "Principal Thornton is not technologically sophisticated," Chen said, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "But he is paranoid, and paranoid people always maintain insurance." Chen pulled up a system log on the main screen. "I traced the data transfer records. 7 minutes before the permanent deletion, a copy of the original file was transferred to a USB port on Thornton's personal computer, specifically to an encrypted external drive labeled Insurance." Williams's eyes narrowed. Thornton knew Ashford would eventually sacrifice him. He kept the original footage as leverage, blackmail material against his co-conspirator. "Where's the drive now?" Williams asked. "NCIS team just executed the search warrant on Thornton's office." Reynolds checked his phone. They found a hidden compartment behind a bookshelf. The drive was inside. They are bringing it in now. The door to the command center opened. An NCIS agent stepped in, carrying an evidence bag. Inside was a small, ruggedized external hard drive. Williams took the bag. It felt heavy, not from its physical weight, but from what it contained. "Connect it to an isolated system," Williams ordered. "Let us see what Thornton was saving for a rainy day." Chen took the drive. He connected it to an air-gapped laptop designed specifically for examining potentially compromised data. He ran a decryption algorithm. The room was silent except for the hum of cooling fans. "Access granted," Chen announced. "File structure intact. Here it is, Admiral. File size matches uncompressed high-definition video. Audio and video tracks preserved." "Play it," Williams commanded. "Full screen." Chen pressed a key. The video opened. The resolution was dramatically higher than the clip that had been broadcast on the news. The image was crisp and clear. There was Bradley, there was Maya. The audio captured everything: the wind, the crunch of gravel, their voices. "You are pathetic." Maya's voice rang out with defiant clarity. Then the slap. The sound was brutal, even through laptop speakers. Bradley's hand connected with Maya's face with sickening force. Her head snapped backward. She fell. There. Reynolds pointed at the screen. Felony assault. Clear and unmistakable. Unprovoked physical battery on a minor. Wait. Williams leaned closer. Enhance the background. Top right quadrant. The building. Chen paused the video. He initiated a digital zoom on the school building visible behind the athletic fields. The software enhanced the image, sharpening pixels. The window on the second floor came into focus. Mrs. Patricia Morrison was standing there. The satellite image from the previous day had shown her as a shape, a silhouette. But this camera angle was lower, looking upward. It captured her face with perfect clarity. She was watching Maya fall, She watched the books scatter. She watched Bradley kick dirt onto the photograph. And then, just before she reached for the blinds, her expression shifted. The corners of her mouth turned upward. Her eyes crinkled. She was smiling. It was a small, tight smile of satisfaction. A smile that said, finally, someone put her in her place. The room went silent. The satellite photograph had proven negligence. It showed that Morrison was present and failed to intervene. But this video proved something far worse. It proved malice. It proved that she had not merely failed to act. She had enjoyed it. She had derived pleasure from watching a child bleed. Williams stared at the frozen image of the woman who had torn up his daughter's essay, who had called her a liar, who had watched her beaten and smiled. She enjoyed it, Williams whispered. His voice vibrated with a dangerous frequency. She wanted my daughter to suffer. Reynolds looked physically ill. Sir, this upgrades the charges significantly. This is not mere failure to report. This makes her an active accessory. Combined with the financial records, she is looking at federal prison. Williams straightened. He buttoned his jacket. Make 10 copies of this recording, Williams ordered. Send one to the FBI. Send one to the Department of Justice. Keep one ready for the hearing. He looked at the frozen image of Morrison's smile one final time. Ashford wants to play media games. He wants to show the public his edited version. Fine, let us show them this. Let us see how the community reacts when they see their beloved teacher smiling at a hate crime. Williams walked toward the door. The time for strategy was over. It was time for execution. The City Hall auditorium's air conditioning had surrendered hours ago to the body heat of 500 spectators. The room was a powder keg of competing tensions. On one side sat the old guard, wealthy parents, political allies, members of Congressman Ashford's donor network. On the other side sat veterans, minority families, former students who had been silenced for too long. The flashbulbs of cameras popped constantly, strobing like lightning in a summer storm. Congressman Ashford knew how to command a room. He stood at the podium, his voice booming with practiced outrage. This is not justice, Ashford roared, pointing at Admiral Williams. This is military tyranny. An admiral sends armored vehicles onto a school campus because his daughter got into a teenage disagreement, and now he accuses a beloved educator of conspiracy? He gestured toward Mrs. Morrison, who sat in the front row dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief, looking fragile and victimized. Mrs. Morrison is a pillar of this community, Ashford continued. She has devoted 32 years to educating our children. She is being persecuted by men with guns because she gave one student a grade she did not like. The crowd rumbled with supportive murmurs. Older residents, swayed by Ashford's rhetoric, glared at Williams. They saw a hero teacher being bullied by an outsider with too much power. The narrative was slipping away from the truth. Admiral Williams did not stand. He simply touched Maya's arm. Go. Maya walked to the microphone. She carried no notes. She looked small against the heavy wooden podium, but when she spoke, the room quieted. My father taught me that a lie is a coward's weapon, Maya said. Her voice trembled but carried clearly. For years, I believed I was the problem. I thought if I dressed better or studied harder or spoke more softly, I would be accepted. I would be believed. She paused. The room was utterly silent. But Mrs. Morrison did not hate me because I was inadequate. She hated me because I was present, because I existed in her space and threatened her arrangement. Maya looked directly at the school board members. You want to know about the assault? You want to see the grades? I do not need to convince you with arguments. She stepped back from the microphone. I have a witness. Ashford scoffed loudly. Let me guess. The custodian. A janitor's testimony. No. Maya turned toward the back of the auditorium, opened the doors. The heavy oak doors swung wide. A hush fell over the crowd. Walking down the center aisle was Bradley Ashford. He looked wrecked. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his hair disheveled, but the most shocking detail was the dark purple bruise blossoming on his jaw, the mark of his father's ring. Congressman Ashford's face went white. Bradley, what are you doing? Sit down immediately. Bradley did not look at his father. He walked past the cameras, past the gaping spectators, and stepped up to the witness stand. He sat down and leaned into the microphone. My father hit me, Bradley said. His voice was hollow, drained of everything except exhausted truth. He hit me last night, not because I assaulted Maya Williams, because I got caught doing it. The room erupted in gasps. Ashford lunged forward from his seat. "This boy is clearly mentally unstable. I demand—" "Sit down, Congressman." Admiral Williams' voice cracked through the chaos like a whip, silencing everything. Bradley continued, tears tracking down his face. "The watch that was found in Maya's bag. I planted it there. Mrs. Morrison unlocked the locker room for me. We planned it together." Mrs. Morrison rose from her seat, shaking. "Bradley, stop. You do not know what you are saying." "I know exactly what I'm saying," Bradley replied, looking at her. "You failed Maya because my father paid you. But that is not the complete truth, is it, Patricia?" Bradley turned to address the crowd. "My father did not just pay her money, he paid her with hope. They had an affair 25 years ago. Before he was elected, before he married my mother, she has been doing his dirty work ever since, rigging grades, destroying students, all because she believed he would eventually leave his wife and marry her." Bradley looked at Morrison with something like pity. "But he never will, Patricia. To him, you have always been disposable, just another tool." Mrs. Morrison turned to Ashford. Her eyes were wide, desperate, begging him to deny it, begging him to claim her, defend her, acknowledge their history. Ashford looked at her with pure, undisguised contempt. "I barely know this woman," he said coldly. "She is clearly a delusional former employee." The betrayal shattered her. Morrison let out a sound that was barely human, a wail of pure anguish, and collapsed into her chair. The mask of the respected educator dissolved completely, revealing a broken, used woman. "Bradley's testimony is credible," Admiral Williams announced, standing. "But testimony can be debated. Documentation cannot." He signaled to his technical team, "Display the footage." The massive projection screen behind the stage flickered to life. It was not the edited clip from the news broadcast. It was the raw, high-definition footage recovered from Thornton's hidden drive. The audience watched in horror as Bradley struck Maya. The sound of the slap echoed through the auditorium. But then Williams pointed to the corner of the screen. "Focus on the window." The image zoomed in. Mrs. Patricia Morrison became visible, standing at the second-floor window watching the assault unfold below. And she was smiling, that small, tight smile of satisfaction. That expression of pleasure at witnessing a child suffering. The reaction in the auditorium was visceral. Parents covered their mouths. Veterans shook their heads in disgust. The pillar of the community was revealed as something monstrous. The narrative Ashford had constructed collapsed in seconds. "End this farce," Ashford shouted, grabbing his briefcase. "I am leaving. This is a circus." He pushed through the crowd toward the side exit. "Move! Get out of my way!" But the exit was blocked. The county sheriff, a man who had spent years accommodating Ashford's influence, stepped forward. He was not smiling. Behind him stood 2 deputies with handcuffs. "Congressman Ashford," the sheriff said, his voice loud enough for every camera to capture. "Please step away from the door." "You work for me," Ashford hissed. "Not anymore." The sheriff held up a warrant. "Richard Ashford, you are under arrest for federal racketeering, bribery of public officials, and conspiracy to conceal a felony. You have the right to remain silent." As the handcuffs clicked around the congressman's wrists, the flashbulbs erupted in a frenzy. Across the room, Maya looked at Bradley. He was crying, his head buried in his hands. But for the first time in his life, he looked free. The weight of his father's expectations, the prison of purchased achievements, had been lifted. The titans had fallen. Not through violence, but through the weight of their own revealed truths. The gavel struck the sound block with a noise like a coffin lid closing. The courtroom was silent. Justice, when it finally arrives, is rarely accompanied by celebration. It is solemn, it is final. Judge Harrison looked down from the bench at the woman standing before him. Mrs. Patricia Morrison looked nothing like the tyrant who had commanded her classroom for 3 decades. Her hair was unkempt. Her designer suit hung loosely on her diminished frame. She appeared 20 years older than she had 2 months ago. "Patricia Morrison," the judge began, his voice echoing through the chamber. "You were entrusted with one of society's most sacred responsibilities, the education and protection of children. Instead, you sold that responsibility for monthly payments and misguided devotion to a man who held you in contempt." Morrison trembled. She scanned the gallery, searching for a sympathetic face. She found none. For the charges of academic fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, and accessory to assault of a minor, the judge declared, "I sentence you to 7 years in state prison." Morrison's legs buckled. The deputies stepped forward to support her. Furthermore, the judge continued, "You are permanently stripped of your teaching certification, and your state pension is forfeited in its entirety to fund educational scholarships for disadvantaged students at Wellington Preparatory Academy." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. For a woman of her age, losing her pension was a form of economic death sentence. She would leave prison destitute. As the deputies moved to escort her from the courtroom, Morrison turned. Her eyes found Maya in the front row. Maya sat with her hands folded in her lap. Her posture was straight, her expression calm. She did not smile. She did not display any satisfaction. She simply met Morrison's gaze and nodded once. A small, solemn acknowledgement that it was over. It was a mercy Morrison did not deserve, and that made it burn all the more. The former teacher lowered her head, weeping silently as she was led away. Richard Ashford's hearing followed. The former congressman was not permitted to wear a suit. He sat in an orange jumpsuit, his silver hair disheveled, as federal prosecutors read the indictment: racketeering, bribery of public officials, witness intimidation, obstruction of justice. He had lost his congressional seat. His reputation was destroyed. His donors had fled. His political allies had issued statements condemning him. Soon he would lose his freedom. He looked at Bradley sitting in the back of the courtroom, but his son refused to meet his eyes. Bradley stared straight ahead, his expression unreadable. Bradley received his own sentence last: probation, community service, and mandatory counseling. When the proceedings concluded, he walked out of the courthouse not as a varsity star or a congressman's heir, but as a young man with a criminal record and an uncertain future. Yet for the first time in his life, he walked without his father's shadow crushing him. He was finally free to fail or succeed on his own merits. The scenery changed from gray stone to endless green. The afternoon sun cast long shadows over the white marble headstones of Arlington National Cemetery. The air was still, filled with a reverent silence more profound than any sound. Admiral Williams walked slowly along the path, his dress uniform immaculate. Beside him walked Maya, carrying a framed document. Behind them walked Henry Washington, the custodian. Henry was no longer wearing his gray maintenance uniform. He wore a modest navy suit, and on his lapel, pinned with dignity, was his Vietnam Service Medal. Admiral Williams had helped him recover it from military archives. They stopped before a pristine white headstone: Lieutenant Commander Elizabeth Williams, M.D., USN, beloved wife and mother. Maya knelt in the grass. She did not cry. The tears had been shed elsewhere, in hallways and bathrooms and behind athletic fields. Now there was only peace. She placed the framed document against the headstone. It was not her torn essay. It was a letter from the Secretary of Education, formally apologizing to the Williams family and announcing the establishment of the Elizabeth Williams Scholarship for Academic Resilience at Wellington Preparatory Academy. "I did it, Mom," Maya whispered, touching the cold marble. "I did not let them change me." Admiral Williams placed his hand on his daughter's shoulder. "You wrote in your essay that honor is a quiet thing," he said softly. "That it is what you do when no one is watching." Maya stood, brushing grass from her dress. She looked at her father, then at Henry. "I was wrong, Dad," she said. "I understand it differently now." Williams raised an eyebrow. "How so?" "Honor is not only quiet." Maya looked back toward the city, toward the courthouse where justice had finally been served. "Honor is a shield. You do not receive it from a rank or a bank account or a trophy case. It is what remains when they try to take everything else away." She took her father's hand. Mrs. Morrison had a career and a pension and a reputation. But she had no honor. Bradley had a Rolex and a car and a path to Princeton. But he had no sense of his own worth. They tried to make me feel small because I did not have their possessions, but they were the ones who were empty. Henry stepped forward. He snapped a crisp salute toward the grave, then toward Maya. "You are a good soldier, young lady," Henry said, his voice thick with pride. Admiral Williams looked at the setting sun. "Let us go home." They turned and walked away, 3 warriors silhouetted against the fading light. They left behind the pain, the prejudice, and the noise. They walked into a future that was uncertain but no longer defined by the cruelty of others. One thing was certain: whatever came next, they would face it with the truth. And the truth, unlike wealth or power or social standing, was the one currency that never lost its value. Maya Williams' story reminds us of fundamental truths that are easy to forget. Honor cannot be purchased with money. Dignity is not something you inherit with a family name. It is the quiet strength to stand upright when the entire world is trying to force you to your knees. While Mrs. Morrison and Congressman Ashford built their empires on the fragile foundations of privilege and prejudice, Maya built hers on the unshakable bedrock of integrity. Her victory was not simply about an admiral walking through the door with 4 stars on his shoulders. It was about a daughter who refused to let lies define her worth. She demonstrated that truth is the only currency that never depreciates, that standing up for yourself, especially when standing alone, is the bravest act a person can perform. The powerful will always try to silence those they perceive as threats. They will manipulate systems, purchase allies, and destroy evidence. But they cannot destroy integrity that has been forged in the fires of adversity. They cannot purchase what was never for sale. And in the end, the truth, patient and persistent, will always find its way into the light. The trees of Arlington swayed gently in the evening breeze as Maya, her father, and Henry walked toward the waiting vehicles. The shadows lengthened across the perfect rows of white stones, each one marking a life given in service to something greater than individual ambition. Maya paused at the cemetery gate and looked back one last time at her mother's resting place. "Thank you, Mom," she whispered, "for teaching me how to be brave, for showing me that love is stronger than fear." Admiral Williams waited patiently. He understood the weight of what his daughter was carrying and the importance of giving it the time and space it deserved. When Maya finally turned and walked through the gate, she walked with the posture her father had taught her, head high, shoulders back, eyes forward. The future stretched before her, uncertain but full of possibility. Wellington Prep would never be the same. The students who had looked through her, who had whispered behind their hands, who had participated in her humiliation through their silence, would have to reckon with what they had allowed to happen. Some would learn from it, others would not. But Maya Williams had learned the most important lesson of all. She had learned that she was enough, exactly as she was. Without the designer clothes or the legacy connections or the purchased grades, she had learned that a person's worth is not determined by the circumstances of their birth or the contents of their bank account. She had learned that integrity, once tested and proven, becomes a fortress that no amount of money or power can breach. And she had learned that sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you become the very ones you need protection from. But that does not mean protection does not exist. It just means you have to be wise about where you seek it. As the SUV pulled away from Arlington and headed toward home, Maya looked at the lights of the city beginning to twinkle in the gathering dusk. Somewhere out there, Bradley Ashford was beginning the long, difficult process of building a life without his father's money and influence. It would not be easy. Everything he had ever known had been stripped away. But it was a chance, a real chance, to discover who he was when no one was purchasing his achievements for him. Somewhere out there, Patricia Morrison was being processed into the state correctional facility, beginning a sentence that would consume the remainder of her productive years. She had gambled everything on a man who had used her and discarded her without a second thought. The price of that miscalculation was higher than she could ever have imagined, and somewhere out there, Richard Ashford was discovering what it felt like to be powerless, to have no one to call, no favors to collect, no donations to leverage. The walls of his cell were probably closing in on him at this very moment, squeezing out all the air of privilege that had sustained him for so long. Maya felt something she did not expect. She felt pity for all of them, not forgiveness, not yet, perhaps not ever, but pity for people who had been given so much and had used it to cause so much harm. They could have been different. They could have used their advantages to lift others up instead of pushing them down. They could have chosen kindness over cruelty, generosity over greed, truth over convenience. But they had not, and now they were paying the price. Maya pulled out her phone and looked at the text message Bradley had sent her that morning before the final hearing. "I know I do not deserve your forgiveness. I am not asking for it. I just wanted you to know that you were right about everything. Thank you for showing me what real strength looks like. I hope someday I can be half as brave as you." Maya thought for a long moment. Then she typed a reply. "Bravery is not the absence of fear. It is choosing to do the right thing despite the fear. You made a brave choice when you walked into that hearing. That was real. Build on it. Do not waste this second chance." She sent the message and put her phone away. Admiral Williams glanced at her. "Everything all right, soldier?" Maya nodded. "Everything is exactly as it should be." The SUV continued through the darkening streets, carrying them toward home, toward a small rental apartment that did not look like much from the outside but contained more love and integrity within its walls than all the mansions in the wealthy neighborhoods combined. Maya watched the streetlights flash past the window, each one a small beacon in the gathering night. She thought about her essay, the one Mrs. Morrison had torn to pieces. She had written that honor was a quiet thing, that it was what you did when no one was watching. But she understood now that honor was also a loud thing. It was what you did when everyone was watching, and the pressure to stay silent was enormous. It was standing up in a crowded auditorium and telling the truth even though your voice was shaking. It was refusing to kneel even when a bully demanded it. It was maintaining your dignity even when chocolate milk was being poured over your head. It was looking into the eyes of someone who hated you and choosing not to hate them back. That was honor, quiet and loud, private and public, tested in solitude and proven in crowds. And once you had it, truly had it, no one could ever take it from you. The SUV pulled into the parking lot of their apartment complex. The building was modest, the kind of place where working families lived paycheck to paycheck, where children played on cracked sidewalks, where neighbors looked out for each other because they had to. It was home. Admiral Williams turned off the engine and looked at his daughter. "I have been thinking," he said, "about the future, about what comes next for you." Maya met his eyes. She knew he worried about her, even though he tried not to show it. She knew he blamed himself for being deployed when she needed him, even though she never blamed him for a moment. "I have been thinking about that too," Maya said. "And?" Maya looked at the apartment building, at the lights glowing in windows where families were gathering for dinner, where children were doing homework, where ordinary people were living ordinary lives with extraordinary courage. "I want to be a teacher," Maya said. Admiral Williams blinked. He had not expected that answer. "After everything you experienced? After what those teachers did to you?" Maya nodded. "Because of what they did. Because there are students out there right now sitting in classrooms where the person who is supposed to protect them is doing the opposite. Students who feel alone and targeted and helpless. Students who think there is no one on their side." She looked at her father with fierce determination. "I want to be the teacher I needed, the one who sees every student as worthy, the one who grades based on effort and ability, not family connections or bank accounts, the one who stands up when something wrong is happening instead of closing the blinds." Admiral Williams felt his eyes grow moist. He blinked hard, maintaining composure through years of naval discipline. "Your mother would be so proud of you," he said quietly. "I am so proud of you." Maya reached over and hugged her father. For a long moment, they simply held each other, two survivors of a battle that had been harder than any military campaign. When they finally pulled apart, Admiral Williams cleared his throat. "Well then," he said, his voice slightly rough, "I suppose we should look into education programs, find the best school for training teachers, make sure you are prepared for the challenges ahead." Maya smiled. "Not the most expensive school," she said. "The best school. There is a difference." Admiral Williams laughed, a genuine warm sound that filled the car. "Yes, there is," he agreed. "You are absolutely right. There is." They got out of the SUV and walked toward the apartment. The evening air was cool, carrying the scent of someone's dinner cooking in a nearby unit. As they climbed the stairs to their door, Maya paused and looked up at the sky. The first stars were beginning to appear, tiny points of light emerging from the deepening blue. She thought about her mother, about the nights they had spent together looking at those same stars, making wishes, talking about the future. One of those conversations came back to her now, as vivid as if it had happened yesterday instead of 6 years ago. "Maya," her mother had said, her voice already weakened by the disease that was claiming her. "Do you know what stars really are?" Maya, 10 years old and desperately pretending everything was normal, had shaken her head. They are lights from the past, her mother had explained. Some of them are so far away that the light we see tonight started traveling toward us before you were born. Before I was born. Before anyone we know was born. Maya had thought about that, trying to wrap her young mind around such vast distances. That means, her mother had continued, that even after something is gone, its light can still reach us. It can still guide us. It can still shine. Maya had understood, even then, what her mother was really saying. Now, standing on the staircase of their modest apartment building, looking up at those ancient lights, Maya felt her mother's presence more strongly than she had in years. "I am going to shine, Mom," she whispered to the stars. "I'm going to reach other people, even when things are dark, especially when things are dark." She turned and walked inside, where her father was already setting out plates for dinner, where the small space was filled with warmth and love and the unshakable foundation of integrity. The battle was over, but the real work was just beginning. And Maya Williams, daughter of a sailor who had served his country for 34 years, daughter of a doctor who had fought cancer with grace and dignity, heir to no fortune but rich in everything that truly mattered, was ready for whatever came next. Because she had learned the most important lesson of all. You cannot control what other people do. You cannot prevent them from being cruel or petty or unjust. You cannot stop them from trying to tear you down. But you can control what you do. You can choose integrity over convenience. You can choose truth over popularity. You can choose to stand when everyone else is kneeling. And in the end, that choice, made again and again in moments both large and small, is what separates those who merely exist from those who truly live. Maya Williams had made her choice. She had chosen to live, and she would spend the rest of her life helping others find the courage to make the same choice. That night, Maya sat at her small desk and opened a fresh notebook. She had decided to start writing again, not because anyone required it, but because she had things she wanted to say. She picked up her pen and began. "Dear future student," she wrote, "I do not know your name yet. I do not know what challenges you are facing or what obstacles stand in your way. But I want you to know something important before we ever meet. You are enough, exactly as you are. Right now, today, not because of your grades or your clothes or your parents' jobs, not because of where you live or how much money your family has, not because someone important thinks you are valuable. You are enough because you exist, because you have thoughts and feelings and dreams that matter. Because there has never been another person exactly like you in all of human history, and there never will be again. Some people will try to make you feel small. They will look at you and see only what you lack, only what you have not achieved, only the ways you fail to meet their expectations. Do not believe them. They are measuring you with broken rulers. They are judging you by standards they invented to make themselves feel superior. Their opinions of you say nothing about who you are and everything about who they are. When they try to tear you down, remember this. The people who feel the need to diminish others are usually the ones who feel smallest inside themselves. Their cruelty is a confession of their own insecurity. Their judgment is a mirror reflecting their own fear. You do not have to become like them to defeat them. You defeat them by remaining who you are, by holding on to your integrity when they try to strip it away, by standing up when they want you to kneel, by speaking truth when they surround you with lies. It will not be easy. I will not pretend it will. There will be days when you want to give up, days when the weight of injustice feels too heavy to carry, days when you look around and wonder if anyone sees you, if anyone cares, if anything you do matters. On those days, I want you to remember my story. I was called a liar when I told the truth. I was called a thief when I had stolen nothing. I was humiliated in front of my peers by adults who were supposed to protect me. I was beaten by someone who had everything I lacked and still felt the need to destroy what little I had. I survived, not because I was stronger than my enemies, not because I was smarter or richer or more connected. I survived because I refused to let them change who I was. I held on to my integrity like a life raft in a storm. And eventually the storm passed, and I was still floating. You can survive too. Whatever you are facing right now, whatever impossible situation seems to have no solution, you can survive it. Not by fighting back with the same weapons they use, not by becoming as cruel as your tormentors, but by maintaining your integrity. by continuing to be good even when being good seems to cost you everything. The truth has a way of emerging. It may take time, it may take longer than you want, but eventually the lies collapse under their own weight and the truth stands revealed. When that day comes, you want to be able to look in the mirror and recognize the person staring back at you. You want to be able to say, I did not let them change me. I did not become the thing I was fighting against. That is the real victory, not revenge, not the punishment of your enemies, not the accumulation of wealth or power or status. The real victory is remaining yourself. So hold the line, future student. Whatever battles you're fighting right now, whatever enemies seem to surround you, whatever injustices you are suffering in silence because you think no one would believe you anyway, hold the line. Help is coming. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But it is coming. And until it arrives, know that you are not alone. Know that others have walked this path before you and survived. Know that your struggle is not invisible, even when it feels that way. You matter. Your story matters. And someday, when you have emerged from your own darkness, you will have the chance to reach back and help someone else who is still struggling. That is how we change the world. Not through grand gestures or dramatic victories, but through small acts of integrity, repeated again and again, passed from one person to the next, like a flame that refuses to go out. Be that flame. Burn brightly, and never, ever let them extinguish your light. With hope and solidarity, your future teacher Maya set down her pen and looked at what she had written. It was just the beginning. There was so much more to say, so many more lessons to share, so many more students to reach. But it was a start, and sometimes starting is the bravest thing you can do. She closed the notebook and placed it carefully on her desk. Tomorrow, she would continue. The day after that, she would continue again. And eventually, all those tomorrows would add up to a life spent in service to others. Just like her father, just like her mother, just like Henry the custodian who had served his country in one uniform and then served his community in another. Service was the Williams family tradition. Not wealth, not power, not prestige, service. And Maya was proud to carry it forward. The apartment was quiet now. Her father had gone to bed, exhausted from the emotional weight of the day. The sounds of the neighborhood had settled into the soft hum of a community at rest. Maya turned off her desk lamp and moved to the window. The stars were still there, unchanged, unconcerned with the small dramas of human existence. They had been shining for billions of years and would continue shining long after everyone currently alive had turned to dust. There was something comforting in that, something that put her own struggles into perspective. In the grand sweep of cosmic time, her battle with Mrs. Morrison and the Ashfords was less than a blink of an eye. It was a mote of dust in an infinite void. And yet it mattered. It mattered to her. It mattered to the other students who had been quietly suffering under the same corrupt system. It mattered to Bradley, who had finally found the courage to break free from his father's shadow. It mattered to Henry, whose quiet heroism had been instrumental in bringing down an empire of lies. Small things could matter. Individual acts of courage could change the course of lives. A single person standing up and saying, "No, this is wrong," could spark a revolution. Maya had learned that lesson the hard way, and she would spend the rest of her life teaching it to others. She climbed into bed and pulled the covers up to her chin. The pillow was soft, the sheets were clean, and for the first time in weeks, she felt truly at peace. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new obstacles, new opportunities to practice the lessons she had learned. But tonight she would rest. She had earned it. As sleep began to pull her under, Maya's last conscious thought was of her mother's smile. Not the smile in the photograph that Bradley had stomped into the dirt. A different smile. The smile her mother had worn on the last day of her life when she had looked at Maya and said, "I am so proud of the person you are becoming." "I am still becoming, Mom," Maya thought as consciousness faded. "But I think you would be proud of who I am so far." And somewhere, in whatever place exists beyond this one, Elizabeth Williams smiled. Her daughter had held the line. Her daughter had not broken. And that was all any mother could ever ask.